Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we're going to be taking a look at Creative Stamping issue 101. So here we have two stamp sets. So we've got our A4 stamp set as always. This is called Festive Florals and this is absolutely jam-packed with lots of different floral stamped images. We've also got this really lovely love heart down here and I really love this because it's kind of more sketchy. It's got a few lines to it and I think it works really beautifully with these stamps, and it's going to be a fantastic base to create different wreaths and things like that. Then we've got these two pieces here, so again you could use these to create your wreath as well. This has got sort of two or three sort of lines making this up, and I really love that kind of sketched look. But we have tons of different kinds of foliage. You've got already kind of built up pieces here if you just want to stamp that rather than building your own. We've got another sort of smaller version just here. We've got some solid stamps in here as well, which I'm going to be using on some of our cards today. But yeah, you've just got a curved sort of sprigs in here. You've got different flowers. You've got sort of an orange segment, a cinnamon stick there. So really classic Christmas. But of course, just these more kind of plain sprigs you could definitely use all year round. And then in the center here, we do have this lovely bird that you could pop into your wreath. Then for the second stamp set, we have this Textures by Lou Collins. So this is a 12-piece stamp set, and this is called Seasonal Sentiments. And what I really love about these is kind of the size, but also that font. And she's also gone for a mix, so you've got more script here. Then you have just some sort of basic, almost typewriter words. Then you have these solid ones here as well. So you can really mix and match and add some interest to your cards. So that's a look at the free gifts. So let's take a quick look in the magazine as we usually do at the inspiration. So already just this cover card they've got here, this has been heat embossed with white embossing powder, and then they've created kind of maybe watercolor background, so you've got all of that really beautiful color in there. They've cut out that love heart as well, and then you've got a sentiment in the center of that love heart. So really beautiful. So the first set of cards we've got is called It's All in the Words. So we've got creating kind of strips, and you've got a simple mask in here with some really beautiful glitter. We've got creating corner pieces here, so you've got kind of framing it, so they've got that sentiment there, which I think is lovely. And then we've got this kind of hand-drawn frame around it. I think that can add something really beautiful to your cards. We've got just monochrome, so stamping the leaves and the sprigs in green already. That will take out a lot of the work of having to colour it, so you can get out then your coloured inks as well. We've got mica powder colouring here, and we've got then creating a mirror image with those stamps. So it's not something that I've done before, but that does look super effective. You've got that love heart underneath, and then you've just got all of that kind of wreath being built up, and I just think that's so beautiful. So some more inspiration, we've got Adorable Acetate. So this is using the stamps with acetate, colouring, adding glitter to these. So lots of different ways, again, using different materials to be able to create your cards using this free set. So let's take a look at what comes included in the next issue of Creative Stamping. So this is called Christmas Gnomes, and this is by Polka Doodles. So they've got 3 stamps in there by them. And then we have just some sentiments. We've got some fun Christmas trees in there, a stocking. We've got a car with the Christmas tree, a light. So you'll be able to create a little bit of a scene, but of course then you've got those gnomes in there by Polka Doodles. And it looks like as well we get papers, 32 papers for Christmas. I'm not sure if that's going to be a digital download or a physical product we're going to get, so we'll have to wait and see how those comes through. But I have been starting to print some of those digital papers that come with that issue just to use on my projects. So this issue, this is 102, that will be on sale on the 11th of November. So I'm going to make a couple of cards in today's video, and my idea behind these cards is we're going to be doing some heat embossing with some blending over the top. So this is going to be a resist technique. This style of card I have shown a previous card done in this style, and I thought it was really beautiful. I haven't recreated it yet, but I thought these stamps would be absolutely perfect. The ones I'm going to begin with and kind of concentrate on is going to be these kind of more solid images, but I might give it a go as well using just these outline stamps. But the first thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment, because I want to heat emboss this in some gold embossing powder. So for my first cards, I'm going to be using the sentiment Season's Greetings. So I thought this was a connected stamp, but it's not, so that's great. You can position it exactly where you want. I've gone for kind of seasons being slightly further to the left, and then greetings sort of coming along a bit, just to kind of fit in that big S and our big G. I've put a piece of Nina cardstock in here. This is going to be perfect for this. The first thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to be heat embossing this, is to use my anti-static powder bag. So we're just going to rub that, and that'll stop that embossing powder getting stuck anywhere we don't want it to. I'm going to take my Simon Says Stamp clear sticky ink, and I'm going to ink up our sentiments. So because this is new stamps, I haven't used these yet, I'm going to stamp these just a couple of times just to make sure that I really get that great impression. So the size cards I'm going to be creating today is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so that's a US A2 size card. And I thought that this size would be perfect for this kind of design, and you can see that these stamps, these sentiments, fit in here perfectly. So I'm actually going to leave my sentiment in my Misty for the moment, because I am going to stamp another card. I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of card, and I've got my Paper Mania gold embossing powder that I'm going to just sprinkle over our sentiment. So that's picked it up really, really lovely. I'm just going to pour it over a couple of times and kind of gently tap that off. So there's our first one. Because I'm going to be stamping the exact same greeting again, I'm going to go ahead and get that stamped, covered in the embossing powder, then I can melt both of these at the same time. So here are my 2 heat embossed panels. So this is melted really beautifully, and this is just going to create such a simple design. I think even just having a simple design with the sentiment, maybe just stamping in black some of those foliage pieces, I think would make such a beautiful card. So what I want to do now is actually build up my design kind of around my sentiment. So I'm going to pop this back into my Misty. So it is a little bit warped, but that's not a problem. So to begin with, from my stamp set, I'm going to pick up this bigger solid stamp here, and I'm going to position that just to this side. So I've got my stamp in my Misty now. I have used my anti-static powder bag on the entire of my panel, and now I'm just going to ink up this stamp here. So I want to make sure that I get a good impression, because this is a solid image. So I'm just going to stamp that again. So that's stamped beautifully, and what I'm going to do quite quickly is then bring in my second card front, and we're just going to repeat that process. So I've stamped that a second time, and I'm now going to bring in some fine detail white embossing powder by Simon Says Stamp. So I'm going to heat emboss these with white embossing powder. So what I've done now is just laid out a few more of these solid images. I've reused this big one here, and it's just coming off the edge. We've got a couple of flowers and kind of berries and things in there as well. So I'm just going to close my lid to pick up those stamps. And I'm just going to do the same thing again. I'm going to use my clear embossing ink here, and I'm going to then pour on that white embossing powder. So I've just gone ahead and heat set those. So if I just tip this in the light, you can kind of see that white embossing powder there. What I didn't realise when I came to do my second one is that my stamps had actually moved. So I find that this happens sometimes because my clear ink is so sticky that sometimes it can pick up the stamps from my Misty door. So you just really need to be careful if you are kind of stamping this again. So these moved, so I had to just remove some of the embossing powder from that third berry, and you can see up here that that this foliage that was on the corner has now kind of just joined in with this one, so I decided to leave it. It's not going to be a problem. Both cards don't need to be exactly the same, but obviously just be careful of that if you are stamping these multiple times, to make sure that your stamps aren't moving. So what I'm going to do now is just carry on kind of filling in around my sentiment with these different images. I'm going to heat set them again in the white exactly the same. Once I've done that, then we can move on to the next stage. So here are my two finished heat embossed panels. So it took me a little bit longer to do because of that stamp moving on this one. I had to kind of change the designs. It wasn't just a case of putting my next panel back in and just being able to stamp it. I did have to kind of rearrange it somewhat, but hopefully you can see that if I just sort of tip that in the light. So you can see that I've covered the whole of that background, all with those solid stamp images. And now what we're going to do is a little bit of inking over the top of this, and we're going to do a heat embossed resist background. So I've got two colours. I'm going to do one in each colour really just to see what it looks like. But we've got our Rustic Wilderness and Fired Brick. So I'm going really classic Christmas here. So I'm going to start off with my Rustic Wilderness, and I'm going to start ink blending kind of heavy on the bottom of this first panel. So I'm just going to come onto my panel here, making sure that it's nice and heavy, like I said, just down here. So now I've got a nice sort of a thick band of real deep colour down there. What I'm going to do is not add any more colour to my brush, and I'm simply just going to blend that colour up, and we're going to kind of fade into that white. I'm going to grab a post-it note to pop onto my fingers because I don't want to get any ink on my fingers. And we're just going to blend this out to the top. So I'm not pressing particularly hard here. So now I'm happy with how that looks. I'm going to take a clean paper towel and I'm just going to rub it over our heat embossed areas, and all that's going to do is just lift up any of that ink that is sat on top of it. So I'm just really carefully going to do that just so I don't kind of bend my base or anything. I'm going to rub over my gold sentiment as well. We're just going to take off any ink that is sat on top. So there's our first panel. So we've got that really lovely heat embossing in there with then that green. So let's do it in the Fired Brick now and really see which one of these looks best. I'm going to take my paper towel again, make sure there's no sort of green on those bits. And we're going to just rub over all of our heat embossing. So there's our two finished panels. So I really love how these have come out, but I'll be really honest, this isn't screaming Christmas to me. This is screaming kind of more tropical Christmas, whether it's because we've got those little flowers in there, maybe it's the colours, so the actual tones that I picked, but I really love how these come out. It's kind of that alternative kind of Christmas feel. You know, maybe if people are going away, maybe you're going away over Christmas, I think these are going to be really, really perfect. But that is all we're going to be doing in terms of these backgrounds. So these are super easy cards to make. Again, if you've got a stamping platform, and as long as your stamps don't move, you'll be able to recreate all of these. You could do them all the same colour, you could do different colours, whatever it might be. This is going to be an easy design that you'll be able to mass produce. So I'm not going to do anything else to these. I'm literally just going to add them onto our card bases. So to add some dimension, I'm going to use some of these foam pads. So this is the foam roll from Chloe's Creative Cards. I haven't used this yet, so we're going to see how easy it is to get these off. So you do kind of have a line, so they do have that backing on there. So let's just add a few squares. So these are pretty easy to have. If you can put this somewhere and kind of just take from the end, that would be really, really good. So let's pop another one just in the center there. And these have quite a good little bit of dimension. They're not super thin. I would probably use my roll of thin tape I picked up from Amazon that I showed you, but just for some fun dimension, these are going to be perfect. And I believe there was 1,000 foam squares on that roll, so I'm thinking that's going to last me a while. Let's take the backs off. So the backs come off super easy on these as well, which is brilliant. So again, yeah, that's added a bunch of dimension on there, but then it gives you a really beautiful kind of shadow. So let's add this one down. So to add a little finishing bling to this, I'm going to use some of Chloe's creative cards. These were the bling gems that I showed you. So I am going to bling this up a little bit. I think I'm just going to use these ones here. So these are just sort of the regular clear gems that we've got. Whereas these ones have got kind of a holographic finish to it. But I don't think that would be quite right for this card. So I think I'm simply just going to add sort of 3 gems to this. So I've got my sticks to everything glue. So I'm just going to add a blob of glue, and then I'm just going to pop my gem down. So there's our 2 finished cards. So again, I really love how these have turned out. They are really, really simple, great for mass producing, and just sort of using some different products that you've got rather than just kind of colouring and things. This is just a little bit of heat embossing with some ink blending. So this one here was using that Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide, and this one was that Fired Brick. So I was planning to create 2 more cards, but I think I might save that just for another video. I think this one is probably long enough just creating these 2 cards here. So if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I upload my next video using this same stamp set. So I've still got plenty more ideas of what we can do with this stamp set. So again, hit that notification bell and you will be notified when I do upload next. So that's going to be it for this video. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.